I didn't realize this was off. Anyway, that's usually a good thing. So I'm talking about this is so. There's a couple of case drivers with a what you call a laissez-faire attitude that saw them passing by me and two children at a major stop at a major intersection, where they ended up going home via myself and a family member. So basically, getting a ride home with strangers on having missed a bus that is the last bus 3 townships away or 2 townships away to anyone who needed to get home. Needed to get home, understand? Needed to get home. What if they lived in Cedar? What if they lived here? And is that possible? Is that possible? In broad daylight in the summer to pass by 3 people at one of the most prominent bus stops in the area in a bus that doesn't even have anyone, which is another part of the story. There's not even any passengers on it. He hasn't boarded anyone yet and is passing out of the town and just doesn't. Another driver where you pull to the side of the road and you're standing out there in broad daylight and they're like, you should have waved. What? They've got personality disorders. Right? I see. And do you think we're moving correctly right now? Honestly? Schizophrenia is the way that people do violence without thinking about it. As much as violence lives in groups, these types of schizophrenic or affected and schizoid people can expect, through various sorts of maneuvering, to get away with it, because the search for the scapegoat exonerates the predator from anything so bad as what the scapegoat is accused of. If you're killing the scapegoat for murder, but they haven't actually murdered anyone, they're going to be tried for murder. It's like, oh, too bad, guys. He didn't really murder anyone. Oh, well, that was fun. This is a form of lynching, essentially. And there are scapegoats in all groups, in all families, right? It is part of the electronic compulsion of human beings who are divested of an opportunity for natural development and articulation, which is presumably impossible, and rarely sustain the ability to imagine their brains developing with any other way than that best disposes them to deal with the quote real world, right? And how life is, and so forth, and various kinds of deprivation over and over again. That's aggressive. Schizophrenics, like I knew a schizophrenic named Felicity Kelly. She's lived ensconced with the belief that she's real work in various cults throughout her life. You know, as convincingly stressed and affected as any person, but capable of extreme amounts of predatory and dominating and territorial behavior. Upon so little provocation as having to deal with the fact that one of her students in auspicious school of one kind or another is sexually attacking or preying. And it is simply not to be abided that one should complain about such a thing. Quote, is part of your training. Anything anyone does in the cult is part of your training. You know, really, that's part of that training, to be sexually harassed. and how this person came to sexually assault me and to set up before, during, and after justifications of why it's okay. Continually pepper me throughout months and years with justifications as to why various things are okay. And trying to tell me that it's okay. When I talked to a police officer being sexually assaulted, what she wanted to do was tell me that nothing had happened and how she didn't really believe that anything had happened. But didn't want to from beginning to end. There was nothing there capable of being convinced that anything had happened. That much was absolute in every aspect of her body language. And I found that with sexual predators who aren't sexual predators because they're after a scapegoat. And people in professions where they use scapegoats or groups can never be convicted of what they're doing to the scapegoat. And the scapegoat can never be believed to what they say is being done to them. This is a part of the asphyxiating nature of how human brains down when they're about to digest someone. In as much as you don't think food the same way that you think about things that you don't eat. You don't think about the way you think about your food. Right? You don't look at a hamburger and go, moo, moo, right? You're not eating your pet cow, right? You've lowered your inhibitions. So what I'm thinking is that when humans lower their inhibitions, it's because they're being moved by the types of changing parameters afforded by the imperative of hunger. So they're always, when you lower your inhibitions, you get something. Or being eaten. Or it's eating away at you. People who are predatory will sometimes eat away at you. They'll stalk you and they'll eat away at you. Eat away. Eat away. This one predator in the store, he lowered his inhibitions and he started using my name and close physical proximity with me. He was getting used to being near me, getting used to being aggressive toward me, getting used to putting on a facade around me, right? Just use name, just do this. It'll make you feel better. Is using your first name? Is using your first name? Another thing you find in cults or groups capable of violence, and always surrounded by a cult, whether anyone else calls it a cult or not, is fakeness. People being fake. We all have to sort of protect people. You have skin to protect yourself. You have a thick skin, you say. But to learn about evil, you have to get your feet wet. I was initiated into violence by my older brother, my father, my mother to some degree, my sister. My brother does not think of himself as a violent person. So the schizophrenia of the kind that motivates violence and supports it, anticipates it, telegraphs it, rationalizes it, and supports it through existing and continuing group dynamics, will never be evinced of its own capacity for violence, ever. Any more than the United States and the average American thinks of their country as violent, no matter how many countries they invade, no matter how many people they kill. They've lowered their inhibitions in a way that would only be supportable if they need to feed on other people. To kill someone, you have to be able to eat someone. You kill things to eat them. You don't think of them as a person anymore. You don't think of it as a cow. You think of it as food. You might think, well, it's in the way of our peace. It's in the way of our freedom. But there's really a hunger that needs to be fed. People have said to me, you don't have a fire. Women tell me that. That's because their fire is cannibalistic. I have no need to feed on people. So I find it hard to be around people, and I often end up getting fed upon. I've had women come up to me and just sexually harass me in groups, and I never know why. But I can sense it coming. You can look into someone's eyes, you can feel the prickles on the back of your neck, whether they think, I think this, or I've done this, or I haven't looked at them the right way, or whatever it is. And that's my journey, to figure that all out. My modest proposal. I shouldn't throw my joints into the forest. I'll stay here and have fun. That's pretty silly of me. I gotta stop doing that. I'll see if I can pick it up. Feels a little disrespectful. There it is. Okay. One joint down. Yeah, Ken wasn't finding me on my best day, but still, it's been nice to have even the dog that bit me. We had an okay conversation. So, not with the dog, with the lady, but I can't help but analyze things, and especially when it's abnormal, especially when I'm threatened. You know, when I have reason to feel threatened, I feel threatened. That's one. I feel threatened. Two. She repeated with that. 2 minutes. It wasn't. Three. Let's go. Yeah, well, Ken was telling me about the chickens that perished through the winter. It's like, oh. And there's these huge, he said, these huge containers that these places they house in. It's not even good conditions to start off with. So, in a sense, he said those people will lose their livelihood. Oh, wow. Oh, sneezing gets it does. A good sneeze will get the evil out. Oh, when you see a woman, that's always a good omen. Because, like, I'm cold all the time, but I don't sneeze all the time. It clears out things that have gotten into your system. Gets get the evil out. You really push that shit out. Get it out of your system. You don't like me very much, do you? The temperature of the water here. What do you do for exercising? Something else? Yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Hey. I mean, you're saying his daughter-in-law wants to do a marathon on every continent. It's like, oh, that's high performance, man. Ugh. I think of people and they have such disgusting attitudes. I remember the last time Felicity Kelly emailed me. It's pure venomous pus. Every seemingly simpering positive word that comes out of this thing's mouth. There's no accountability whatsoever. There's no reality. You realize, you lived around this. You're lucky your shoulder was only dislocated once. This person's entire mind is dislocated, right? And it just occurred to me, that's why my shoulder was dislocated. The minds are dislocated. The mind of the cult is dislocated. It's scary. That's why I like my man. He's been really nice to me. I love getting home to him every day. Send this like a dream. Somebody who works for the living. I thought that was a butterfly. There's leaves there. A lot to think about. Still processing shock. This person disappeared after 2 years after stalking me in the store, and the owner helped him stalk me. Right? He started mirroring the owner's personality towards me, coming up to me every day and using my first name. Hello, Landon. Hello, Landon. Hello, Landon. Every day. What would that do to you, Landon? This person's never used your name before. That's different. How does the scapegoat get reborn? How does the scapegoat go on when they have taken, like the scape bull, like the sacrificial bull, have taken all the murderous crap that defies every wonderful thing that human things want to believe they and their world really are. And you take all that shite. Imagine children who take the shite of society shoved into their blood before they're born. We're not saying anyone's really act, but it has to come through someone, doesn't it? And it comes through the mother, and it comes through their flesh and blood, it comes through the mother's childhood, it comes through the very absorbent power of female blood, powerful, ferocious, intelligent, and needs to be. It absorbs a lot, it processes a lot, ponders a lot, purifies a lot, overtax it, and kill you. And better kill you than die itself. In a sense, biologically, women are more likely to kill men than the other way around, because nature preferences women over men. You put in stress, and you'll see higher, as we see, higher birth rate of women than men, right? More and more feminine-oriented culture that is really, no offense against the ideologies involved, but in a larger biological epic, it's not really going to help until you balance out, right? And then you give people a more, right, so they can follow their own biological rhythms. So nothing needs to be against that any more than we need to put chickens and sheep and lambs and cows into inhumane conditions. Nothing and have nothing but disease and death to look forward to, right? And as much as we need and benefit from their spirit and flesh, how much more could we benefit, and how much less could those prone to it be affected by such meats if we just treated them the way that would be better off treating them for our own sake? Nobody really benefits from this. Yeah. Where would I did not say it. What happened again? What happened again? 2 weeks later, standing at the bus stop. 2 weeks later, standing at the bus stop. Denied service. Standing by myself, an empty bus, deserted bus stop. 2-3 townships away. Drove all that way just so you could stand with me standing outside the door and drive away and tell me he didn't know I was waiting for him. The only bus in the area that goes anywhere, right? The last bus. Hey, what if it was the last bus? Nobody wants to talk to you. And the person who wants to talk to you, you don't want to talk to them. Right? Hey, take this high and tell me what I need to know to make me feel safe again. Can you do that? Why did this happen? Right? And that's getting way too specific for them. Way too intense. Right? Who's going to bring that level of responsibility? I'll tell them, look, I'm seeing buses pass by children who need a ride home from strangers. Why is that necessary? Operators don't seem to understand the danger and seem to want to deny it and make it sound like it's okay. Instead of saying, no, the driver shouldn't have done that. They should be eminently concerned with every single stop they pass, especially when they're the last bus home for any number of affected people who may not have any other way home. That's what buses are for. That's what taxis are for. And you got to spend what, $50, $60, $100 to get home? And what's the bus company going to do? Oh, sorry, it happens. And you're standing at a bus stop? I remember the last time I talked to a certain white woman, Lois, and she's insane. I mean, just to be near this woman is to be in the presence of a very positive insanity. Like, this woman never stops talking. She never slows down. You'll see her, when you see her, she'll be at 0. And then she goes to 100. She's had 10 cups of coffee. And just goes up. that British I heard?
Say again?
Is that British?
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought I heard my old Cockney
Oh, no.
accent. It's a nice sound.
From my generations go back.
Oh, really? Yeah,
You're-
maybe it's,
You're hearing something from several generations.
yeah, lovely.
back.
I come from a Cockney. I like hearing it now.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Like, so great. I don't care how many generations back, it's pretty familiar.
Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too. Both of you. Bye-bye. Definitely heard Cockney in her voice. Yeah. She said, oh, it's many generations back. I can pick things up from people's voices sometimes. It just sounded like my auntie Anna. What do you do? Joggers, to me, are obsessive. Tend to be obsessive compulsive people. I mean, yes, it's different, and it's not wrong because it's different. I try jogging, different body, but it's just I can't get around it. I'd never be with a jogger. They're so obsessive, marathon after marathon. You can never run far enough. It's like certain inhibitions about things. It's like they're not running to anything. And when you're running, you can't think about anything. I guess you can process stuff in a way that your blood's pumping. Maybe, I could say it's cathartic and all that. I can't say it's not, but maybe a good jog would do me. But I find walking around all day helps. And Ken pointed out some useful things. Talking to him, I like the way he talks. I like him and his wife in a way. He's got a very easy way of asking questions. He gives you information about the levee and other things, like the Sumac River. Sumas had something called the Sumac River, so it comes back and people lose their livelihoods. So it's kind of interesting. Didn't know that. Everyone knows this now because the livelihoods in some cases. And also they were providing chickens, which is kind of like a good/evil thing to do. Someone's got to do it, I guess. And until people can make a living without shacking thousands of chickens up the video, you're going to have to keep doing it. And chicken farm. I like chickens, but man, things to think about. And when people are doing a job and they're rude or aggressive, I don't think they're doing their job. I try to imagine that the owners of the company and the better angels of the company don't want that employee to behave that way, right? I'd like to think that. And then you see it enough and you're like, no, I don't think that anymore. I don't think this company has any better angels. Or often they do, they have more positive people, higher, but it's not getting through because it's not really as substantial as you think, right? So there's positivity and then there's people with substance. And humans always have substance, but they don't quite have the substance you think. And whatever their substance is, it's not really being used efficiently by their belief system because it's having to deny a lot of things, including a more genuine articulation of their substance, which has been scared off by trauma and finds its only articulation through occult psychology and consensus, usually topped by some expert or guru who holds forth various qualities of strength and wisdom and foresight about life and healing and the nature of human pain, kind of guide you like a mother and father in life. And when people set themselves up like that, and often as though they're experts on sex, and they're giving their disciples advice on sex, and they're encouraging them to commit sexual assault, and they're condoning it, but only because it's got to the point of having such ravaging effects upon someone that it's impossible to ignore, and yet consider themselves masters. Oh, it's too bad that someone had a bad reaction to my disciple raping them. We should probably look into that. Don't rape them anymore, you know? But yet this guy's got like the second sight and knows the nature of sex, and so everything wrong is the fault of lesser mortals, right? Everything that's wrong, I see, is the fault of lesser mortals. So I raped myself, did I? You're not responsible for that, right? That's because I'm not as spiritual as you are. You should hear the sound of your fucking voice, right? Because that's part of the training, and I couldn't handle it, right? Does someone in the training just get between your legs and lick your pussy one night when you were in bed? It's part of your training. And when you hear that these disciples have been hurt, and the master has literally said to them, it's your fault, it's a reflection of you, and it's part of your training. And literally become close person through that experience, and take them on as a daughter and a closer disciple, and become bonded to them. And when they end up committing violence to others, as they will, they protect, right? And they protect themselves from their victims. I've seen it happen in cults, right? These are cults. And when this happens, that is a cult. It is a cult capacity. My mother's beautiful. This might be a good day to take a picture of it, to show to her, and make it more about my mother. And so the disciple gets hurt by the master, and the master's number one disciple, which doesn't say much about the master, but the master sidesteps all critical moral responsibility by placing it onto the victim, and somehow comes out looking like the good guy, right? Oh, I know more